Things in Wyatt's mind. For whatever reason, a cartoon about a cat and a mouse with an unchanging plot for more than 80 years is praised and remembered fondly. Bet you weren't expecting Tom and Jerry on here, were ya? But of course this is another one of my childhood shows, so it was bound to happen sooner or later. And if you're wondering, this is the actual 23rd episode. The I Love Toy Trains thing was just Simon and I's April Fool's prank. Anyways, in the year 1940, the dynamic animation duo of William Hanna and Joseph Barbera created an animated short called Puss Gets the Boot, which marked the debuts of Tom and Jerry. Except their names weren't Tom and Jerry yet. They were initially known as Jasper and Jinx in the beginning. But in the second short, they had the names that would be known later down the road. And Tom and Jerry ran for 164 short films. Most of them were slapped right before a movie in theaters. And if you're somehow unfamiliar with Tom and Jerry, let me walk you through a typical short. So it begins with Jerry just being innocent and minding his own business, only for Tom to show up at his mouse hole and be the absolute jerk that he is. Tom would then chase Jerry around, trying to catch him or trap him or eat him, or basically any sort of cartoon violence. And then Jerry would lead Tom into a scenario where his owner gets mad and kicks him out of the house, while Jerry gets off scot-free. The Tom and Jerry cartoons also had a habit of altering the characters' shapes from time to time. Especially with Tom, who whenever he got hurt, he would typically take the shape of whatever hurt him. For instance, if an iron fell on his face, his head would get iron-shaped. And although the initial cartoons ran for 27 years, the legacy still had to be kept alive somehow. For instance, they released the Tom and Jerry comedy show in the 80s, but it was actually a pretty terrible show. And then they released Tom and Jerry Tales in 2007, Tom and Jerry Show in 2014, and even a live-action animated movie which came out only last year. If you want to check out Tom and Jerry for yourself, then episodes are still airing from time to time on Boomerang. But if you're more of a streaming type of person, then you can just turn to HBO Max. And also, we need a moment to thank Tom and Jerry for giving us a plethora of different memes. Even though a cartoon like Tom and Jerry couldn't exist today, it would be nice if it did, and that's why I prefer the cartoons of the older days. Anyway, let's see what comes into my mind next time, and I'm Wyatt, signing off. Things in Wyatt's mind.